Welcome back to Lumio's Tower, where we're aiming to be the very best like no one ever was. And today, we are going to be taking on some more of these Blissey raids that are currently going on at the time of recording. They've been long gone in the time this video posts, but while we do that, we're going to have another competitive discussion. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the competitive viability of the 5 new Pokemon that are coming out in Scarlet and Violet's DLC, the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. These Pokemon are Ogre Pawn, Okidogi, Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity, and Terapagos. Now, the issue is, at the time of recording, we do not know their typings, their abilities. We know nothing about them but their names and their designs. So, this is going to be an extremely speculative video and a topic that I'm sure we will revisit down the line when we get more information on these Pokemon. But basically right now we're going to try to predict their typings, try to predict, you know, maybe what their abilities could look like, all those kinds of things. Yeah, let's just jump right in. So first, let's start with Ogre Pawn and Terapagos, the kind of mascots. So for Ogre Pawn, a lot of types stand out to me. Obviously, there's a bunch of leaves into his design, so, you know, grass is like an immediate thought. There's also the fact that, you know, if you look at the stories based off of, which I've broken down on my other channel, LumiosePost, which you should totally check out if you are not following that, do theories and stuff over there. But I've talked about how this is all, the Teal Mask is all inspired by the story of Momotaro, which is a Japanese folktale, and in it there are these demons, or oni is what they're called in Japanese, and that is what Ogre Pawn is kind of supposed to represent here. So because of that, dark type is also, you know, very possible. Grass dark. The issue I have with that is just this gen, we've gotten a lot of grass dark Pokemon. We've gotten Meowscarada, we've gotten Brute Bonnet, we've gotten Wo-Chien. I do think that's it, but either way, you know, that's more than enough. That's 3 of a typing that really isn't even that great, so please don't make it for Ogre Pawn. I really hope they don't do that. I could see it perhaps being Grass Fairy instead, because, you know, the fairy typing, you know, that kind of could be associated with, like, demons or onis, because it's, like, kind of mythical or fairy tale like creatures. You know, like in the sense that they're in mythical stories or fairy tale stories. So I could see the fairy typing with it. They could even do Fairy Dark. You know, the only Pokemon that we have that is currently Fairy Dark is the Grimmsnarl line. And to be completely frank, you know, they could do another. That wouldn't be the end of the world. Also, you know, you might think, nah, it's got to be part grass. But this wouldn't be the first time they take a very grassy design and make it a fairy type instead. You know, Comfey has flowers all over it. It's a, you know, Hawaiian lei, but it's a fairy type. Florges is literally a flower. Its whole line is a little flower. It's a, like, nymph with a flower, but either way, didn't even become part grass. It just was fairy, and it got some, like, moves to kind of help it, or help grass Pokemon, or its abilities help grass Pokemon, those kinds of things. So they associated it with it. Maybe we could see a similar thing for Ogre Pawn, which I guess brings us to abilities. We could see maybe an ability that works very similar to, I believe it's Steelworker is Dhelmise's ability, where Dhelmise is a grass ghost type, but with its ability, Steelworker, it is able to get stabbed, same type attack bonus, from steel type moves, despite not being a steel type. So this would actually be really cool, because that would allow Ogre Pawn to be Fairy Dark, but get stab from grass type attacks, which I think would be really unique to it, and really competitive too, because the issue with the grass typing is it's actually a pretty good offensive typing. You know, it beats the water types, the rock types, and the ground types, and water especially, but also ground, are very, very common types in the metagame. So a Pokemon that doesn't suffer from the weaknesses of grass, because grass has 5 different weaknesses, which is absurd. And, you know, of those weaknesses, you know, there's flying, ice, both of those are very common. Fire, very common. Bug and poison. Poison's pretty common as well. So it's a bad typing defensively, and Ogre Pawn will be allowed to take advantage of its, you know, offensive strengths while not taking its defensive weaknesses, and I think that would be really, really unique. There is also the fact that since Ogre Pawn is like the mascot of the Teal Mask, he could, any of these Pokemon could, but he could have an alternate form, and I'm not talking about like one of those rumored Terra forms, but rather a straight up like alternate form, like in the same way that, you know, Calyrex has a form where he's riding Glastrier and a form where he's riding Spectrier. We could see a similar thing with Ogre Pawn and also Terapagos, but we'll get to that later. But if that's the case, you know, maybe like there's an unmasked form, and that would be like, I don't know, Dark Fairy, and then maybe Dark Grass, Fairy Grass, something for the mask, because the mask brings out the leaves. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Maybe it's even just pure dark without the mask, but Dark Fairy with the mask. I don't know. I would think that the unmasked form would somehow be more powerful, because I kind of think about like Hoopa with its unbound form. It's supposed to be like it's way more powerful now. So I think it would make more sense if the unmasked form was like better, so it was the form that gained a typing, or at least traded a typing. But I don't know. Of course, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on each of these Pokemon's typings and abilities and all that in the comments below. I do think they will all have new abilities, since they're kind of new mascot Pokemon. I think they'll want to give them new abilities, similar to how Urshifu had a new ability. You know, Glastrier and Spectrier had new abilities. And then, you know, when in his rider forms, Calyrex had new abilities. And same with Regidrago, Regieleki, and the other Pokemon. Actually, you know what? I guess Galarian Articuno and them didn't have it, but Galarian Slowbro did. Again, I just think new abilities will be at play in the DLC, and I definitely think that Ogre Pawn, all the Pokemon we've seen right now, are huge candidates for getting new abilities. Now, to move into the other Pokemon, we have Monkey Dory, Pheasantipede, and Okidogi. Now, to me, their typings will probably be Grass, Fire, and Water. Now, I know a bunch of people have suggested Dark types on them. Now, I don't think that'll be the case, because we just got a Dark type Quartet with the Ruinous Quartet, and this would give us, you know, in the Ruinous Quartet, there's a Dark Grass type, Wo-Chien, and there's a Dark Fire type, Chi-Yu. So if you make Pheasantipede Dark Fire and you make Okidogi Dark Grass, that's like the least special thing you could have done for them, you know? So I think that would be really dumb. So I kind of think that since these are, in my opinion, supposed to kind of mirror starter Pokemon, I think that they might actually like mirror starter Pokemon by having them have like secondary types that form either a chain or a trio or rock, paper, scissors thing. I don't know. But I do think Fire, Grass, Water. I think that Okidogi, it's a buff, you know, dog. I really hope, again, I could see it getting the Dark type, but again, too many Dark types. No. Too many Dark Grass types. Don't do that. But I could see it being like the fighting type, so it's grass fighting. I could see Monkey Dory being the perhaps a psychic type, because, you know, it is pointing to its head in the picture, and it is like you know, it's got kind of a big head, so maybe it's like got a big brain. Also, I mean, just if you look at monkeys, you know, monkeys are like really intelligent creatures, so, you know, they could rope all that in, give it the psychic typing. And then you have with Pheasantipede, I would want Fire Fairy the most. It's very elegant to me, so like a fairy type. Flying type would, of course, be an option as well, but I think it would be much more interesting to have a Fire Fairy type, because that's a type that is currently unused. We don't have a Pokemon with that type. That'd be a pretty good offensive type, a pretty good defensive type. So yeah, I'd be all for a Fire Fairy Pheasantipede. Pheasantipede's my favorite of the three, so I definitely am a little biased here. But yeah, to move into abilities, I would imagine, I mean, it would be kind of interesting just from like a, I guess, game development standpoint if they gave these Pokemon Overgrow, Torrent, and Blaze. But it would be better if they gave them something better. I imagine they would have new abilities. If they are going to tie them to the Ruinous Quartet, like them be like the opposites of the Ruinous Quartet, maybe they'll have an ability that strengthens theirs and their allies' stats in a similar way to how the Ruinous Quartet has signature abilities that weakens opposing Pokemon stats. So maybe that's what they do. I don't know. Other than that, I can't really, it's hard to conceptualize a new ability that fit very well without the, knowing the typings of these Pokemon. But I would really, really like to see something that does boost theirs and ally Pokemon stats. It will be a very competitive ability if they do that. And I don't think they're afraid to give them competitive abilities. I mean, these Paradox Pokemon are insane. The Ruinous Quartet are insane. So I think they're going to want to keep these new mascotish Pokemon on the same level. So yeah, again, let me know your thoughts on all of these Pokemon, their types, and abilities in the comments below. So then, lastly, that leaves us with Terapagos. Terapagos is very interesting because it has all the types on its shell. And so, in a fun world, that would make me think, well, it's going to be all the types. It's not. It is definitely not going to be all the types. But, you can understand the logic of that because it has all the types on it. So what I would propose is maybe a similar thing to Arceus and Legends Arceus. We see he gets the Legends plate, and what the Legends plate allows you to do is it allows you to, when you're using Judgment, transform into the best type possible for what you're battling. So, for example, if I send Arceus out on a Blissey, and I use Judgment and I'm holding the Legends plate, I'll change into a fighting type and then use Judgment on the Blissey. And I don't think it works defensively too. Or maybe it's when you come out, you change to the best type for the Pokemon. I don't know. I'm misremembering, but basically it allows you to change type multiple points throughout the battle. And so I could see them doing a similar thing with Terapagos. I mean, it is associated with type. It's potentially associated with the Terrasteel phenomenon. So that would make a lot of sense. I don't know. Maybe that's what they do. I actually think that would be really cool if that's what they did too. Just because, that's a very unique thing for a Pokemon. This would definitely be like Calyrex, where it's not allowed until restricted Pokemon are allowed, like, Kyogre, Groudon, those kind of things. It would be like big legend tier, not sub legend tier. I imagine all the Pokemon in the Teal Mask would be sub legend tier. But yeah, for an ability, I imagine it's Terapagos' ability that would allow it to change type. I honestly, I kind of wonder if its typing will be like the question mark typing, like similar to how we had with the curse typing, the way it used to be. But yeah, be sure to let me know your thoughts on all these Pokemon, just their designs in general, but also what typings you think they'll be, what kind of abilities you think they'll be, what kind of competitive just improvements, advancements, changes you think that we will see from these Pokemon. Be sure to also like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss all of our future competitive discussion, as well as our battle videos on the channel. Both are a lot of fun to make and seem to be well received, so we're going to keep on doing them. We will. We ain't stopping anytime soon. So again, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And until next time, keep on climbing to the top.